make our people strong and safe, and to lead the world towards a future of greater peace and prosperity. Because for all of our flaws, for all of our self-inflicted wounds, the United States is still the only country that can step up and get the job done. Now, Secretary Clinton gave a speech in San Diego a couple of weeks ago that I'm sure many of you saw. It was a satisfying opportunity to really lay out the choice in this election. And in that speech, she consciously used the term American exceptionalism because she believes we are exceptional and we do have exceptional capacities to go about building that better future for our people and for all people. So the question then is, okay, those are some nice big words, but what's the agenda? What are we actually going to do? How do we actually advance America's foreign policy and national security around the world? This is what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about today. And pardon me if at various points in this I get a little bit wonky. I actually need a break from the campaign trail, and I see a few fellow wonk travelers in the room here. So I'm going to set aside some of the campaign bromide language and actually talk a little bit seriously about what I think the basic project of American foreign policy has to look like over the next 5, 10, 15 years. At its core, I believe that the project of American foreign policy is to update the global order to reflect current realities in the world while at the same time fundamentally continuing to protect our interests and values. We have to do both of those things at once. We have to acknowledge the changing realities in the world, the new voices, the new forces, the new trends, but we also have to hold on to the basic precepts and propositions that have existed since we initially constructed the global order after the Second World War. That is no easy task, my friends, to at once be updating the order according to new realities and at the same time making sure that the order that emerges at the end of that effort continues to reflect, protect, and respect our core interests and our core values. But I think that is, in a nutshell, what stands before us as the challenge and the opportunity of American foreign policy. And I believe that the next decade offers a crucial opportunity for getting this right, for putting that basic organizing principle into practice. Because if we do not act decisively in the period ahead, if we let things drift, then events are going to shape us rather than the other way around. So let's get them right. And here I think it all comes down to 3 basic steps: reinforce, rebalance, reshape. Reinforce. Reinforce the foundations of American power and prestige. That means reinforcing our economic foundation. And Secretary Clinton has talked a lot about the investments that we need to make in infrastructure and education and innovation in order to effectively do that. Reinforce our political foundation. And I'll come back to this at the end. The state of our politics today requires quite a bit of, well, reinforcement might be a nice word, like total fixing up would be another way to put it. Reinforce the foundation of our values. Many of you guys know better than I do that the reservoirs of American credibility and the degree to which young people in the rest of the world look to the United States and see a moral beacon have been depleted over time. That's partly because an entire generation of people around the world have grown up seeing as emblems of American foreign policies things like Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib, and have not learned about all of the things that the United States did for decades in the Cold War to stand up for freedom and opportunity. So we have work to do around the world to recommit ourselves and to spread the message of how the United States does stand for a set of core universal values and principles, does want to fight for women's rights and internet freedom and religious liberty and democracy and all of the things that have laid at the core of a progressive foreign policy agenda and that so many of you guys work on every day. And then, of course, we need to reinforce the foundation of our alliances. Almost everywhere you look on the geopolitical compass, our oldest and most important allies in Europe are hard-pressed. Now we have Brexit from the West. We have a massive migration crisis from the South. We have a resurgent Russia from the East. And Hillary Clinton believes passionately and powerfully, as do I, that reinforcing the transatlantic partnership, reinforcing the special relationship that we have with the United Kingdom are absolutely crucial to America's national security in the days ahead. This is a fundamental difference of opinion between her and Donald Trump, who thinks that we should basically walk away from our alliances, give up on that fundamental asset on our national balance sheet. Hillary Clinton couldn't see it any more differently. Strengthening those transatlantic alliances and strengthening the alliances across the Pacific with Japan and South Korea and Australia, the Philippines, Thailand, is so crucial to the United States being able to project the kind of leadership that we need to keep our people safe and prosperous here at home. Rebalance. A lot of you guys have heard the term rebalance as applied to the rebalance to the Asia-Pacific, and I want to take 1 second to talk about that. But I actually believe we need 3 basic kinds of rebalances. A rebalance to the Asia-Pacific, where we are elevating our engagement in the area of greatest growth and opportunity, and where the single most consequential geopolitical event of our time, the rise of China, is unfolding before our eyes. Now, I remember going with Secretary Clinton to China in 2011 or 2012 and meeting with a state counselor who had become familiar with the term rebalance, which was one of the terms of the Obama administration. And he said, I do like this term rebalance. I think maybe you should contemplate rebalancing out rather than rebalancing in. But of course, we have a different concept with what we want to accomplish, that the United States has to be a resident power in Asia. We have to be present. We have to be forward deployed and engaged. And I know many of you work on this set of issues. Second is a rebalance of a different kind in the Middle East. And I want to explain what I mean. As we contend with the threat of ISIS and its safe haven across the Iraq-Syria border, as we work to enforce the Iran nuclear deal, something that I obviously care deeply about, we also have to take a look at the bigger context. In addition to a vicious and perverted ideology that is fueling a lot of the extremist networks and movements in the region, in addition to the fraying and collapse of state structures and institutions, we can see that the proxy conflict between Iran and the Sunni states of the region is helping to fuel the instability in the region. And from my perspective, a rebalance is needed in order to set the table for a more effective American strategy in the Middle East. And it goes like this. We need to be raising the costs on Iran for its destabilizing behavior, and we need to be raising the confidence of our Sunni partners that the United States is going to be there, and in so doing, in raising their confidence, begin to try and draw down some of their more dangerous hedging behavior. So raise the costs on Iran, raise the confidence of our Sunni partners, and set the table for a more effective enforcement of both the Iran nuclear deal and our capacity to fight ISIS. This is something that has to be played out with something more than simple terms like that. It's something that I would love to engage with many of you in the room on as we go forward, because if there's one thing we all know, it's that this set of challenges, from Nigeria in West Africa all the way across to South Asia, across a broad arc of instability, is something that is such a complicated and difficult set of questions that we need to grapple with. And we certainly haven't gotten all the answers right to date. And it's going to take as many good minds as we can possibly muster, working with our partners in the region and around the world to try to do better as we go forward. And then finally, a third kind of rebalance. The third kind of rebalance, from my perspective, is thinking about rebalancing our own tools and capabilities. You see, for those of you who have spent time in government, our adversaries are getting faster, they're getting more adaptable, and they're using increasingly asymmetric means to advance their objectives, many of which are in direct conflict with ours. Propaganda, the use of corruption as a national security tool to insidiously influence neighbors and destabilize them. The use of cyber tools and avoiding attribution. We just saw the Democratic National Committee hacked a couple of weeks ago, and we could ask ourselves who the progenitor of that particular asymmetric act was. As we watch our adversaries, whether they be state actors or they be non-state actors. Get more effective, more nimble, more adaptable, and frankly, faster, just faster. We have to confess that we haven't been able to fully keep up with the speed and the flexibility that is required to deal with these asymmetric threats. And so I believe that we need a rebalance of capabilities where we are really lifting up our ability to compete and win in the cyber domain, our ability to compete and win against corruption, our ability to push back against and effectively